But I want to start this particular episode with an appeal. And the appeal is that you don't have to be wealthy, but please never be poor. Welcome to this episode of The Unravel, and we continue in our series, The Anatomy of Poverty. I think this is part 3, right? And in this conversation today, we'll be looking at something very critical as it concerns both the nature of poverty, the reason why people are burdened and plagued by poverty, and we will also relate that to how it impacts on how you can attain financial freedom. So today will be a continuation of all we have been saying in this series. You don't have to be wealthy. You don't have to be. I don't think it's compulsory by any measure, by any standards, that you must be wealthy, right? And I know that in a way, this is even arguable as to if this is true, absolutely, or not. Because if it is in our nature to be like God, God isn't poor, and I think we can describe God as a wealthy God. So naturally, we should be able to attain wealth. But just like a child is to a father, you may not have all the attributes of the father, but you should have enough attributes that affirms that you are truly a child of your father. Am I correct? So none of us in this room are exactly like our father or our mother, as the case may be, even though we are in the image of our parents, but our lives are not a replica in totality of our parents. When it comes to our relationship with divinity in creation, we are actually meant to be a replica, but we may not all be able to exhibit to full extent all the various aspects of God. So I'm going to say this again. You don't have to be wealthy. You don't have to have 1 billion in your account. But my appeal is that you should never be poor. I don't think on any measure, on any sphere, that poverty is optional. It should never be an option. You may not have all the money you desire, but don't be poor. Now we have a small understanding from the part 1 and part 2 what poverty is. And on the premise of those conversations, I'm saying that you should not be poor. We said in one of the parts that a poor man tends to be selfish because he or she has just enough for himself and maybe for his immediate family, just enough. So however much he wants to help other people, he can't, because whatever he has is just enough for him and his children. And if you have just enough, you may be poor. And I don't think anyone wants to live his or her life having just enough for me and the lad, like the woman in the Bible said to the prophet, that this is just enough for me and my son to eat and die. No one deserves to live like that, where all that you have is just enough. So poverty should never be an option. Whatever you have should be enough to extend your reach. Does that make sense? Whatever you have. And that would, before we proceed, let me try to give us a definition of what I think it means to be rich. Because, it's not something I would have done in this episode, but I think that just for the sake of this conversation, let's just take this route a little bit. What does it mean to be rich? In my definition and my view, when the capacity of your nature, follow this carefully. Damilola, follow this carefully. When the capacity of your nature and the nature of your capacity is equipped to sufficiently and reasonably extend your reach to others and to the future, you are rich. You're looking confused. So let me try again. Every nature has a capacity, right? When you have a car, there is the horsepower of the engine. So the engine of the car has a capacity. Am I correct, Antonio? So every nature, whether it's human being, a lion, a tiger, a fish, every nature comes with their capacity. And then capacity in itself has its own nature. So even though a nature has capacity, there's also the nature in the capacity. Does that make sense? So the capacity of your nature, what your nature can do, the strength of your nature, and the nature of your strength. If your nature has strength, the volume of that strength may not be sufficient. Does that make sense? So your nature may have capacity, but your capacity may not have enough volume to deliver sufficiently a reach for others. So for you to say, I am rich, the capacity of your nature and the nature of your capacity must be both equipped. So as a person, in your being, you must have capacity of reach. And your capacity for reach must have enough force in it that provides you with the sufficiency to reasonably extend your reach to other people and to your future. That's when you are rich. So when you have enough to reasonably and sufficiently help other people, when you have enough to reasonably and sufficiently send money into your future, you are rich. That future, like we said in the last episode, may be 30 days from now, maybe 3 years from now, maybe 30 years from now. But once you can extend your reach beyond now with your current capacity into your future and into other people, to whatever degree, you are rich. You know, we said in the beginning that the reason why we discuss the anatomy of poverty is that some people are poor and they are not aware, and some people are rich and not aware. So you may be rich because you may have the capacity in your nature to sufficiently and reasonably reach to other people and to your future, but you're not aware. Is that making sense to you now? So many of us sometimes have attained a level of riches, but we don't know it, because we think that we must have a certain volume of money to say we are rich. And we have explained here that volume of money does not determine wealth. A rich man can be broke and a poor man can have money. We have said that over and over again. So a man can be properly poor majorly because he does not have rich. Let me circle that. So you may have money, but if you lack rich, you are poor. Is that making sense? A person may have money, but if that person lacks rich, that person can be said to be poor. So the emphasis here is rich. R-E-A-C-H. When a person has money but cannot achieve rich, that person is poor. So if you have 1 billion in your account, 1 million in your account, but you don't have reach into other people's lives or reach into your future, that's poverty. And many of us, early in our lives, have attained a decent capacity for reach, but we still think we are poor. You may be in the village, farming rice, farming cassava, but you are feeding 20 people outside your children. You are a rich man. You have enough saved, to buy a land in your village that can protect your next generation. You are a rich man. It may be a small land of 200,000 in your village, but you are a rich man, because you have sent something into your future way ahead of you. That is what it means to be rich. Having enough to extend to other people, having enough to extend into the future. So whatever you do, don't be poor. You don't have to be a billionaire, but don't be poor. Is that making sense? So let's continue now in this series. So in this particular discussion, I want to focus on foresight, oversight, and insight. So I was going to have it done in 3 different parts, but I think we'll just merge all 3 of them into this conversation. The last one we discussed was short-term thinking and long-term thinking. But today, we'll look at foresight as against short sight. And you'll be asking, what's the difference between long-term thinking and short-sight thinking? What's the difference between long-term thinking and foresight thinking? Short-term or long-term is time-based. Short sight and foresight is place-based. Is that making sense? So when I say that think long term, I'm saying think in time, far into the future. When I say have foresight, I'm saying picture a place in that time. So when God told Abraham, how far can you see? That is foresight. How far can you see? It's foresight. So foresight is your ability to see far. And it's important to see far because many times the reason why the places that we find ourselves deplete us is because we're not able to identify the construct of the places that we arrive at. Let me explain that. You may have seen in the future that one day I'm going to serve important people. That's the future you see. And then God aligns many things in your life to bring you to the possibility of serving very important people. But because you didn't have clear vision of that place, you finally get to the place and you didn't realize it. You knew that in 4 years' time, I want to serve very important people. I want to have clients who are very important people. And then the pathway and the prospects have been put together. And God has brought you into a place where you could do that, but you can't even identify it. The time has come, which you were waiting for, 4 years' time. And in that 4 years, you were still in waiting. But in your waiting, you had stumbled into the place. But you didn't know it. Are you see what I'm saying now? And it takes foresight to know places on arrival. And it's very critical. I can't do very extensive teaching about places, but places are critical. And we've seen that over and over in scriptures. Abraham, take now your son, your only son whom you love, to a place I will show you. Right? And there you can sacrifice Isaac. Even though I want you to do this thing, there's a place to do it. And you must have that cultivation of sight to know the place when you get there. And many times, the door that God uses to usher us into places are usually small doors. Doors that sometimes begin by looking insignificant, like a disadvantage. But meanwhile, that door is what has ushered you into your desired place. But when there's lack of foresight, you wouldn't even see it. You are there, but because you didn't like the door that brought you in, you also don't like the place that you are in. Meanwhile, the place you are in was the place you have been praying for. Does that make sense to you? But you need to have foresight. Far enough. I've had clients that have done me strong things, that it was a miserable experience. But I knew that I was in a certain place. I knew it. So I stayed there, sometimes for 3 years, 4 years in service. Because of foresight. I had seen the place a long time ago, so when the thing came, I knew it. And even though I didn't like the experience at the time, I knew I was in a place. And if I stayed here long enough, many other things will open. So I stayed there. And that happens by foresight, not just long-term. You need a long-term thinking. But when I show you the engineering of foresight, you will see why the foresight thing is very important. Especially when you combine foresight and oversight and insight. When you merge all three, it will now start making sense to you. So I said here that foresight is long-term thinking with an address. You see the difference now? So it's still a kind of long-term thinking. But in this case, it's not just captured in time. It's captured in place. Yeah. Because sometimes we're saying, I'm waiting for my time to come. I'm waiting for my time to come. I keep saying that to God, places are so important that He made Jesus the way. He's the way, the truth, and the life. So the place you are going to is so important that in case you will miss the way, He now became the way. So if you don't have foresight, you may have long-term thinking, but you will lack the address. So foresight is long-term thinking with an address, and I call it distant thinking. But it's your capacity and your ability to see a place far in advance. Some years ago, I had a discussion with one of our staff. He's now not in Nigeria, this family. And he said to me that he realized while we worked together that he arrived at a particular place faster than he expected. And that now he needs to start developing a new vision for his future. Because there was a vision he had with a timeline. I see that now. He had long-term thinking and he had foresight. Then by foresight, he now discovered that he arrived at the place earlier than they planned. So the only thing he could do at that point was start re-engineering a new vision for the next 5 or 10 years. I see that now. But he knew, he could recognize that the thing I had seen that will happen in 10 years' time has not happened in 5 years. So what do I now do? Do I just become Lord and King here? Or do I subject myself to dreaming bigger for the next 5 years? So that's what he did, because he had foreknowledge or foresight of the place. So foresight needs an address. Number 2 is that foresight will help you find the place and know the place when you get there. And this is very critical. Not just in finances, but also in marriage. You know, there's a thing that marriage does to you. Once you enter, if I must speak honestly, maybe just it happened to me. I don't know if it happened to all of you. But when you enter into marriage, before marriage you're excited. 1 a.m. you're on the phone, 2 a.m. you're on the phone, night, morning and evening you're always on the phone. Then you now get married and he begins to annoy you suddenly. Do you know that feeling? In fact, sometimes even before marriage, like 2 months before marriage, the quarrel will just increase suddenly. And then his or her call will start annoying you. It's always like, I believe. So when you get into marriage, sometimes you begin to question yourself, that why did I even marry this guy? He was the dream guy. But suddenly, you're not in marriage and you're wondering, why did I marry this guy? The same thing happens in businesses. You start a business and then in the first 3 months, 4 months, it looks like everything you plan in your head, the exact opposite is playing out. And then, am I really sure I'm in the right place? The reason why it's very critical to have foresight before arrival is that sometimes the foresight you have before arrival helps your staying power in the right place long enough before the manifestation of the virtues of the place. Be it in marriage or business, sometimes even though you think you know the place, when you finally enter, it doesn't look like it. Like you might say, I want to move to Abuja. I want to move to Abuja. My sister lives there. My brother lives there. They're all doing well. Then you're not coming to Abuja. And then for you, for the first 2 years, maybe even 3 years, everything is the opposite of what you were told. If you don't see clearly, you will leave after 3 months. Meanwhile, the opening that you have been waiting for was going to happen by the 3rd year. You now go back to where you came from and you go and start from square one again. You see that now? So that staying power that many people lack, even in marriage, in businesses, why they keep shifting grounds, is because they didn't even have foresight before arrival. They had desires, they had wishes, they had a sense of competition with their pair, but they didn't have foresight. So foresight won't just help you find a place, but to help you stay in the place. Because you know it, you know that there are things I'm doing now that I've seen. If I'm able to tell you, even the hotel that we have, I've been talking about the hotel for like 10 years. I had designed a hotel maybe like 10 years ago. Precisely a 13-room hotel on a very small piece of land. I just had that design and I kept it for years. So whatever we're doing now is not like try and error. It's not trying to catch up with anything or anyone. It's been in the works for many years. Restaurant has been in the works for many years. From the days when I lived in Jos, it has always been in view to own a restaurant. But I knew that it was not yet time. When the time came, we launched into it. And our first restaurant, as many of you may know, we shut it down after like 2 or 3 years because it failed. And when it failed, we opened another one again. Right? In fact, in a way, the second one too, we shut it down. Then the third one now just picked up. I knew the place. Right? I knew the place. So I stayed. I didn't change business. I said, food is not working. Let's enter fashion. No. I had seen the place. Okay? So I spoke about Abraham. How far can you see? So I want to just quickly run this because I want to enter oversight. Vision is an intentional journey into a desired future that you are able to see. That's vision. Vision is an intentional journey into a desired future that you are able to see. So vision is not just about seeing a place, it's journeying into the place. And one of the things that equips you for vision is foresight. But this is where my real work is. Foresight and oversight. So, Joseph come. And then maybe Damilola come. Can the frame catch all of us? Okay, so let's try it. So Dami can stand here. Are they both in the frame? Good. So Dami stand a little bit in front. Is she in the frame? Good. So this is me now. This is where I am. This is me right here. Damilola is my foresight. It's a future that I have seen. It's a place I have seen that I need to be. Right? It's clear. Antonia, come. So stand behind Damilola. But there are possibilities that may be hindered by struggles. So even though I want to hit this location by foresight, I've seen this place in my long-term thinking, in my foresight thinking. I've seen that Damilola is possible. But right now, I'm not just here, but there is an obstacle between me and Damilola. And that is Antonia. So I'm trying to find a way to get to Damilola. So I have foresight, but in front of my sight, there is a hindrance. Does that make sense? Is that making sense? So there's a foresight. How many is a foresight? But there is a hindrance here. Now, if you don't have oversight, I'm coming to oversight now. So I know Dami so Dami can turn the base, you can see this as well. If you don't have oversight, from this perspective, all you may be seeing is Antonia. If I'm not getting it yet. So I had foresight. So stand here. There you stand here. So I had foresight clearly. And then foresight is 10 years away. By the 3rd year, a limitation comes and makes it look as though whatever I saw is no longer possible. So at this point now, I need to engage oversight. Oversight is your ability to have a broad overview. So while I'm looking this way at my foresight, this is now becoming a problem because right now from here, this is all I can see. So I now need to cultivate my mind to go above Antonia, to have an oversight. Now, when you look from the side of oversight, what you have is an overview, what we call in architecture, side view, right? From the side view or the overview, I cannot see that actually Damilola is still possible. I'm not able to see above Antonia, and not just that, I see connection between possibilities with oversight. When I went oversight, when I was here, I didn't see Joseph. My focus was here. But the moment I climbed up a bit higher, I just didn't see Damilola, and also Damilola is on the left side of Joseph. So that means when I hit Damilola, I can turn right and hit Joseph. Does that make sense? So many times we stay only on the foresight. And when things happen to discourage us, we easily stop. Because all we are seeing is foresight. But when you are able to see oversight, that the business I open is not working well, the marriage is not working well, my children are misbehaving, oversight gives me the ability to navigate properly and go around obstacles and still relocate my desired foresight. And not just to find my desired foresight, but to connect it with other possibilities that I had not seen because I was at the same level with my dreams. Does that make sense to you? Thank you, guys. And sometimes to attain oversight, you will need to climb the shoulders of people and other wisdom. Does that make sense? So I want to attain, I have seen it. I don't like foresight. I have the foresight. I want to have my first 1 million at 25. I want to be married at 27. I have the foresight. I know exactly what I want. But there is an obstacle. And that obstacle now is making me feel like my foresight is out of view. It's no longer possible. Because dollar is now 1.7. I can't import anything from China anymore. I see that now. My plan was to import things, and do business when I'm 25. But now dollar is now 1.7. So there's no other way around it. Because the only thing I can see in front of me is the challenge, is the obstacle. So at that point now, you must have oversight. Every profound businessman, every proper investor has both foresight and they have oversight. Because many times, the only sight that works is oversight, where you are able to see the connection between different realities. That's what I wrote here. Oversight is a broad overview to see connections between realities and possibilities. The thing we are suffering, both in the church and with motivational teachings, is that we emphasize only on foresight. See far. See far. And then people are seeing far, but they stop with the slightest hindrance. Their dreams are crushed with the slightest limitation. You must be able to mount yourself high enough, whether by information, by inspiration, by relationship, by networking, by holding people that are going somewhere, to take you high enough to see connection between possibilities. If you understand this thing, but you become nice to even get men in an office. If you are for oversight, sometimes the only person that the organ will hear is the gate man. But because you lack oversight, you're always thinking linear. You just behave as though the only thing that is possible is what is in front of you. Many times, if you look high enough and get the overview, you will see that the only person that can reveal your true enemy to you is your gate man. And you get there by oversight. One of the things that will keep you on track to understand how to navigate your ways across challenges, which many of us here have gone through, right? Either in school, out of school, on the job. If you don't have enough oversight to see all the possible realities, you will very easily give up. You may be very, very tough in your nature to fight over your foresight, but you can't go far with it. One of the things that's helped me through the years is seeing connection between possibilities. Okay? For example, Daniela, we met in Makodi, where you were working before, and you were very active, you were very, devoted. And then when we reconnected again, it was easy. At the time I saw you, I could have even tried to poach you and say, leave that place and come and work with me. But I didn't do that. Because if I did that, that may also send the wrong signal that I'm not a loyal person. I just want to take people from different places. But I didn't do that. When the time was right, oversight played in. All right? I just had to wait and wait for things to connect itself. And oversight played in. Am I correct? Yes. So many times, the reason why many of us are stuck in poverty is lack of oversight. The reason why many also marry wrong people is because they lack oversight. The man is good looking, he has a good job now, he has an anger problem, and you're not seeing the connection of that anger. That this anger can lead to your detriment in 5 years. I see that now? You are saying that he's tall, he prays for 2 hours, but there are other things that he's showing you that you're not seeing because you have foresight, but you don't have oversight. There are other guys that you see that look like they don't have anything to offer. But if you have the oversight, you get to see that he may not have the money now. But give this guy 5 years. He'll get there by oversight, not just by foresight. Then lastly is insight. Insight is your actual understanding of your truth. So the reason why these three are important is that if you're going into a business, you must have insight into your business, you must have foresight for the business, and then you must have oversight around the business. Is that making sense to you? So if you're going to marriage, you must have insight for the marriage, you must have foresight on that marriage, and you must have oversight around the marriage. In the oversight, it will afford you the wisdom to analyze your mother-in-law very well. Analyze all the realities that come with the person you want to marry, not just the person. That is oversight. You are now looking at the connection of that person with every other thing. In Africa, even the tribe, you will check it. Where is he from? His parents. What killed his mother? What killed the father? You will put all of that in oversight. You go to a business in Abuja, in Lagos, in Ibadan, in Enugu, it doesn't matter. You need to have foresight. Then you check your oversight. What sells in Enugu? Because what sells in Abuja, in your foresight, may not work in Enugu. So you may need to come up with a new plan because of oversight. And then when you have achieved those two, then the insight is, do you even know the business? You must have insight. Do you even know the investment? If it's marriage, Are you equipped? Are you sure you know what you are entering in marriage? If it's a partnership, a few years ago, a friend offered me partnership and said he wanted us to partner on the project. I said to him that I really want to partner. The only problem is that I have no knowledge of partnership. I don't know how it works. So my fear is that I don't want to enter something I don't know, and then the business now destroys the friendship we have. If I had understanding and insight of partnership, I would have done it. But at that time, I had no understanding of how partnerships are meant to work in businesses. So the only reason why I refused the partnership was because I lacked insight, yes, of the workings of partnership. Now I know better, all right? And I'm not even still there, but I know better than I did 2 years ago. So I'm now more open to certain things because of insight, not just foresight. Partnership would have been a great ingredient, but I had no insight into partnership. There are other things that I want to do in the near future that I'm not doing yet. I have the foresight for it. I may even have the oversight for it, but I don't have the insight for it. So many people are poor and living below where they should because they lack either all three or they lack one of the three. I think our time is up, right?
So what happens if you have two of it or you lack one?
You have to find a way. If you have two, you are actually safe, but you are still vulnerable. You are still vulnerable. If I was going to go into car business and have a vision to have a car stand in Abuja, that is foresight. Now, I want to do more Toyotas than I want to do Honda, because in Abuja, people drive more Toyota than they drive Honda. That's oversight. But where do I buy the car from? Which of the Toyota brands sells better? That comes down to insight that I lack. I see that now. So even though I picked the right location, I haven't understood the oversight of my terrain and picked the right brand to sell, I still need to learn insight in the brand I want to sell. How does Toyota sell? What are the going rates for Toyota? The Corollas and the Camrys, which one sell better? The Avalon may look very beautiful, but they sell way slower. So it may take me 4 months to sell one Avalon. I can sell Corollas one every week. So with that insight, I will go for Corolla. Even though they are smaller cars, but they sell way faster. That comes by insight, not by foresight. I see that now. So if you want to go into any venture, you must have all three. You can start with even one. Like we said in the previous series, you can begin with one step and build yourself for the next step and build yourself for the next step. So you can begin with foresight. And then from foresight, you begin to prepare your mind for the oversight. And then when you get the oversight, you cannot settle down. So, okay, now I know. And what I want to really sell is Corolla of Toyota. Then you now begin to learn the dynamics of where do I buy the car from? Who do I sell to? Is it government workers? Is it, so all of that comes with the insight of the business. And many of us jump at good ideas that are void of oversight, foresight, and insight. All we have is fantastic idea, but they always fail because that idea is not backed up with oversight, insight, or foresight. So good ideas are great, but they are greatly insufficient. You know what I'm saying? Good ideas are fantastic. It's amazing to think that when we began the restaurant in Abuja here, the profit we're making here, we're doing 3 times the profit in Makurdi. 3 times. Why do you think that is? If you're going by oversight and foresight, it looks like Abuja must be the place. And we did eat in Abuja here, and we're doing 1/4 or 1/3 of the profit we're doing now in Makurdi. The reason why we're able to achieve this in Makurdi is that Abuja is saturated with very good restaurants. Makurdi has very few good restaurants. So you don't need too much to impress people in Makurdi. Abuja can sell a meal for 10,000 a plate, and it looks like you have more profit, but not really. When you capture the rent you are paying, which is probably enough to buy a house in Makurdi, you see that now? It takes away from your true profit margin. Then Makurdi, you maybe pay 2,000 per plate, but the time it takes you to make 100,000 profit in Abuja, you can do that half the time in Makurdi with the volume you are selling. So in a month, we are doing 3 times the profit. That comes by insight. It doesn't look very impressive to say I have a restaurant in Benue State. It looks more cool to say I have a restaurant in Abuja, but we're making tremendous profit in Makurdi. And that comes by insight, not just foresight. Partly also by oversight, because the oversight helped me to connect the possibilities in Makurdi that many people wouldn't have seen by only foresight. And saw the gap. When I went high enough, I saw that there's a gap. I've been coming here for years. I didn't see it. But oversight now gave me the ability to see that, there's a major gap. There's no good restaurant here. We normally eat outside the tree, and restaurants that don't have ACs. The moment we came into Makurdi, very few restaurants had ACs, right? I mean, you know Makurdi, right? Good. But now, with our entry, more restaurants are now coming up. With now ACs, TVs, lighting, POP, and all of that. So we are not just coming to make profit, we have helped the market structure of the business in the region. So all three actually are very critical. Even when you're having children, the one that is troubling you the most when he or she is 2 years old might be your most favorite child at 20. But it will take you oversight and foresight and insight to say it. So when parents begin to run down their kids at the age of 5 or 10, it's because they lack oversight and foresight. Because the one that you are not impressed with at 10 years may be the one that will become the breadwinner at 25. And that comes by oversight, insight, and foresight. So I think that we'll have one more episode to go, and that's going to be quite interesting because that one is poor people earn once a month. And that one, I really want to, say some very important things there. Yeah. So, all right, guys, thank you so much. See you on the next one. God bless you.
You can ask me now. Oh my.